First Contact Protocol. High Overseer Vextol stood before the Galactic Confederation's Council, their crystalline form reflecting the light of 1,000 stars through the chamber's transparent dome. The emergency session had been called for one reason. A primitive species on a backwater planet had achieved faster-than-light travel decades before their projected timeline. Distinguished council members, Vextol's harmonic voice resonated through the chamber. The species designated human has violated all known development patterns. They achieved atomic power to FTL travel in less than a century. This acceleration rate is unprecedented in our 12 million years of observation. The council chamber erupted in worried whispers. Species development followed predictable patterns. It was a fundamental law of galactic civilization. Yet somehow, these humans had broken that law. "Show us," demanded Council Elder Kitrax, their tentacles writhing with concern. Vextol projected a holographic timeline. Observe their technological progression. From primitive combustion engines to quantum computing in mere generations, more concerning is their adaptation rate. When faced with catastrophic failure, instead of requiring multiple attempts over centuries like normal species, they learn immediately. The projection showed humans recovering from disasters, each time emerging stronger, more resilient, and armed with new innovations. Their solutions were often inelegant, sometimes barely functional, but they worked. And they kept working better. Most disturbing is their response to failure. Vextol continued. Other species follow linear improvement paths. Humans iterate. They call it failing forward. Each failure spawns multiple solution attempts simultaneously. They somehow thrive on their own inefficiency. Elder Kitrax raised a primary appendage. Surely they follow standard psychological patterns. All sentient life forms operate within known parameters. That's the most alarming aspect. Vextol's crystalline form darkened with concern. They exhibit contradictory traits simultaneously. They wage war while advancing medicine. They destroy ecosystems while developing environmental protection. They demonstrate both incredible selfishness and remarkable altruism, often within the same individual. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Every known species followed predictable patterns. It was how galactic civilization maintained order. Species that developed faster than light travel were always peaceful, having overcome their violent tendencies. Species that maintained aggressive traits never advanced beyond their solar system, eventually destroying themselves. But humans had done both. They remained aggressive, competitive, and fractious while achieving interstellar travel. It defied all known sociological laws. "We have no choice," Vextol concluded. "Standard first contact protocols are insufficient. I recommend immediate implementation of the Shepherd Initiative." The council erupted again. The Shepherd Initiative had only been used 3 times in galactic history, each time to guide an aberrant species toward acceptable development patterns. It required massive resources and absolute secrecy. "The humans must not know they're being contained," Vextol pressed. "We will present ourselves as benefactors, sharing carefully controlled technology. Every innovation will have monitoring systems built in. We must understand how they think, how they learn, and most importantly, how they break every rule we thought was universal." The council voted unanimously to approve the initiative. None of them realized they had just made first contact with a species that would redefine their understanding of evolution itself. The humans were about to teach them that rules were made to be broken. And some rules weren't rules at all, merely patterns no one had dared to challenge before. Pattern recognition. Chief Observer Zira found herself fascinated and disturbed in equal measure as she reviewed the latest human behavioral analysis. After 6 months of careful technological sharing under the Shepherd Initiative, the data painted an impossible picture. "Explain this again," she demanded, her bioluminescent patterns flickering with agitation. The human research team had somehow improved the quantum communication device they'd been given, not by following the careful instructions, but by taking it apart and rebuilding it in a way that should have been impossible. They didn't just use it, her assistant Mylock explained, his tentacles twisting nervously. They broke it, repeatedly, until they understood why it worked. Then they made it work better. He paused, mandibles clicking. High Overseer Vextol needs to see this data immediately. The improvements weren't elegant. They weren't even technically correct by Confederation standards. But they worked. Somehow, the humans had increased the device's efficiency by 23% through what could only be described as elegant brutality. Within hours, Vextol's crystalline form materialized in the observation center. "Show me everything," they commanded. The holographic displays filled with data streams. Humans weren't just learning the technology, they were reinventing it. In every field, from medicine to propulsion systems, they took the carefully controlled innovations they were given and twisted them into new forms. "They're not following any known learning patterns," Zyra explained. "When we present a technology, most species spend years understanding the theoretical framework before attempting practical applications. Humans, they just start using it. They break it, fix it, combine it with other technologies in ways we never considered. Most concerning," Mylock added, "is their distribution of knowledge. We expected hierarchical information flow, controlled by their leaders. Instead, they have something called open source. They share everything, globally, instantly. Millions of humans work on the same problems simultaneously, building on each other's failures and successes." Vextol's crystalline surface rippled with concern. "Show me their adaptation rate." The next data set caused even Vextol's composed form to flicker with alarm. The humans weren't just learning. They were accelerating. Each new technology they mastered seemed to increase their learning speed for the next one. "There's more," Zyra said quietly. "We've detected unauthorized experiments. They're not just improving our technology. They're combining it with their own innovations in ways we never imagined. Some of their attempts fail catastrophically. But, Vextol pressed. But they learn from those failures faster than any species we've ever encountered. It's as if failure drives them forward instead of setting them back. And the worse the failure, the more they seem to learn from it." Mylock brought up another display. "We've also noticed something in their entertainment media. They have these stories they call science fiction. They imagine technology centuries beyond their current capabilities, and then they build them. It's as if they refuse to accept any limits on what's possible." Vextol absorbed the information in silence. The Shepherd Initiative was meant to guide species into safe, predictable development patterns. But the humans weren't being shepherded. They were using the program to accelerate their own unpredictable evolution. "Adjust containment protocols," Vextol finally ordered. "Increase monitoring on all shared technologies." And they paused, their crystalline form darkening. "Begin preparation for pattern omega contingencies." Zyra's bioluminescence dimmed in shock. Pattern omega was the protocol for species deemed too dangerous to allow into the galactic community. It had never been used in her lifetime. "Surely that's premature," she protested. "They haven't shown any hostile intent." "Intent is not the concern," Vextol responded. "Their very nature is hostile to galactic stability. They don't just break patterns, they refuse to acknowledge them. Every species follows the paths evolution laid out for them. But humans," Vextol's form pulsed with worried light, "humans act as if they can choose their own path. And that makes them more dangerous than any naturally aggressive species we've encountered." As if to punctuate Vextol's words, a new alert flashed across the displays. Somewhere on Earth, a human research team had just achieved what they termed breakthrough in quantum entanglement theory. They had taken a technology that had taken the Confederation millennia to perfect, and in less than a year, found a way to improve it. The question was no longer whether humans would change the galaxy, but whether the galaxy would survive the change. The breaking point, the incident that changed everything, began with what the humans called a happy accident. Dr. Sarah Chen hadn't meant to discover the monitoring systems embedded in the Confederation's quantum communications technology. She had simply been trying to boost the signal strength for deep space communications with Mars Colony. "This is impossible," Research Director Xavier Santos said, staring at Dr. Chen's findings in their secured laboratory deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. "The patterns in the quantum field, they're not random noise. They're data streams. Data streams going directly to Confederation observers," Sarah confirmed, her expression grim. "Every piece of technology they've given us has similar signatures. They're not just sharing technology. They're studying us." The revelation spread through human scientific circles like wildfire, passed through encrypted channels and private networks the Confederation didn't know existed. Humanity had suspected they weren't being told everything, but the scale of the deception was staggering. In the Confederation's primary observation center, alarms began blaring. High Overseer Vextol materialized instantly, their crystalline form pulsing with urgent patterns. "Report," they commanded. Chief Observer Zera's bioluminescent patterns flashed with panic. "The humans, they've detected our monitoring systems." But that's not the worst part. She brought up a holographic display showing energy signatures across Earth. "They're not just discovering our surveillance. They're adapting it. They're using our own monitoring technology to enhance their communications network." Vextol's form darkened. "How? The quantum patterns should be indecipherable to their level of technology." "That's just it," Madlock interjected, his tentacles writhing. "They didn't decipher them. They didn't even try to understand how they work. They just recognized they were there and started using them. They're treating our most advanced monitoring systems like a natural resource to be exploited." The displays showed human innovation centers worldwide lighting up with activity. They weren't just finding the monitoring systems. They were improving them, adapting them, combining them with their own technology in ways that defied Confederation physics. "Implement pattern Omega," Vextol ordered, their harmonic voice resonating with finality. "The humans cannot be allowed to." The command was cut short by a new alarm. On every screen, human communication channels were lighting up with impossible energy signatures. They weren't just using the quantum monitoring network. They had somehow turned it into a weapon. "Emergency protocol breach." Madlock's tentacles whipped in agitation. "They're not just accessing our network. They're inside our systems. Through every quantum channel, through systems the Confederation had fought impregnable, came a simple message. We need to talk." The message was signed by Dr. Sarah Chen, but what terrified the Confederation observers wasn't the message itself. It was that it appeared simultaneously in every known Confederation language, translated perfectly, using encryption protocols that shouldn't exist for another 1,000 years. "How?" Zyra whispered, her bioluminescence dimming in shock. "How did they advance so far without us detecting it?" "Because we watched what we expected to see," Vextol replied, their crystalline form clouded with realization. "We monitored their use of our technology so closely that we missed what they were developing on their own." The displays showed new data streams emerging across Earth. Humans weren't just breaking through the Confederation's monitoring. They were establishing their own quantum network, built from principles that somehow merged Confederation technology with human innovation. "They don't just learn," Vextol observed, their voice carrying a new tone, something close to awe. "They transform. Every barrier we created became a stepping stone. Every system we used to monitor them became a tool for their advancement." The humans had turned the Confederation's own containment protocols into a ladder, and they were climbing it faster than anyone had thought possible. On Earth, Dr. Chen and her team worked through the night, using the Confederation's monitoring network to pierce the veil of secrecy that had surrounded humanity since first contact. What they found would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The question was no longer whether humanity could be contained. The question was whether the Confederation was ready for what humanity would become once all constraints were removed. Calculated risk. Admiral Helena Rodriguez stood before the United Earth Council, her holographic presentation showing the full extent of the Confederation's containment protocols. The chamber was silent as she detailed what humanity had discovered by turning the aliens' own monitoring systems against them. They classified us as an evolutionary threat, she explained, her voice steadied despite the gravity of her words. Every piece of technology they shared was designed to study us, to understand why we developed differently from other species. Dr. Chen stepped forward, adding to the presentation. But they made a crucial mistake. They assumed we would follow predictable patterns of technological development. Instead, we took their monitoring systems and turned them into a window into their own civilization. The displays shifted, showing the vast network of Confederation surveillance that humanity had not just discovered, but transformed. What was meant to be a cage had become humanity's greatest advantage. We've accessed their historical records, Sarah continued. We're not the first species they've tried to contain. We're just the first to break free. In the Confederation's Emergency Council chamber, panic was spreading. High Overseer Vextal watched in growing horror as humans began appearing in secure facilities across Confederation space, not physically, but as quantum projections using the very monitoring technology meant to contain them. How are they doing this? Elder Catrax demanded, tentacles writhing in agitation. These systems were designed to be one way. They're not using them the way they were designed, Zyra explained, her bioluminescence pulsing with a mixture of fear and fascination. They'd somehow merged quantum entanglement with their own crude electromagnetic communications. It shouldn't work, but humans don't care what should or shouldn't work, Vextal finished. They care only about what does work. On Earth, humanity's response to their discovery was characteristically unexpected. Instead of reacting with anger at the deception, they treated it as a challenge. Research teams worldwide began reverse engineering Confederation technology not for weapons, but for something far more dangerous: understanding. Admiral Rodriguez outlined humanity's response plan to the Council. We're not going to fight them, she declared. We're going to make ourselves too valuable to fight. The plan was audacious in its simplicity. Humanity would take the Confederation's own containment protocols and use them to demonstrate why human unpredictability was an asset, not a threat. In laboratories across Earth, human scientists began solving problems that had plagued the Confederation for millennia. They approached alien technologies with fresh eyes, unconstrained by traditional assumptions. Where Confederation species saw immutable laws of physics, humans saw suggestions to be tested. Look at this, Dr. Chen said, highlighting a particular data stream. The Confederation has been trying to solve quantum degradation in long-distance communications for 10,000 years. We did it in 6 months because we didn't know it was supposed to be impossible. The displays showed human innovation centers lighting up across the planet, each approaching Confederation challenges with different methods. Some failed spectacularly, but even the failures produced valuable data. The humans weren't just solving problems. They were developing dozens of potential solutions simultaneously. In the Confederation Council chamber, the mood shifted from panic to bewilderment as humans began freely sharing their innovations through the quantum network. They weren't acting like a contained species fighting for freedom. They were acting like eager colleagues sharing exciting discoveries. This is unprecedented, Elder Catrax admitted, watching as human scientists casually resolved theoretical problems that had stymied Confederation experts for generations. They're not just advancing. They're pulling us forward with them. Vextal's crystalline form shimmered with complex emotions. The humans had taken everything the Confederation knew about species development and turned it upside down. They weren't following any known pattern because they were creating entirely new patterns. We tried to contain them, Vextal observed, but in doing so, we gave them exactly what they needed to surpass us. The very tools we used to limit them became the means of their ascension. The question now wasn't whether humanity would join galactic civilization, but how fundamentally they would change it. The Confederation had wanted to understand human unpredictability. Now they were about to experience it firsthand. Evolution's wild card. 1 year after humanity's discovery of the containment protocols, the Galactic Confederation gathered for an unprecedented session. For the first time in its history, representatives of a pre-approved species would address the full council. The chamber hummed with nervous energy as Dr. Sarah Chen and Admiral Helena Rodriguez stepped onto the speaking platform. "Honorable Council," Sarah began, her voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. "We understand why you feared us. Humanity doesn't follow your patterns. We don't develop the way you expect. We don't think the way you think we should." She gestured, and the chamber filled with holographic displays showing human history, not as the Confederation had recorded it, but as humanity had lived it. Countless moments of innovation born from desperation, of progress emerging from chaos, of strength found in diversity. "You saw our unpredictability as a threat," Admiral Rodriguez continued, "but you never asked why we evolved to be unpredictable. You never considered that our chaos might serve a purpose." The displays shifted, showing Earth's turbulent history, natural disasters, climate shifts, countless challenges that had forced humanity to adapt or die. Unlike the stable homeworlds of most Confederation species, Earth had never allowed humanity to settle into comfortable patterns. "We are not a mistake in the galaxy's order," Sarah explained. "We are nature's response to chaos itself. Every seeming flaw in our development, our simultaneous aggression and altruism, our ability to create and destroy, our refusal to follow predictable paths, these aren't bugs in our evolution. They're features." High Overseer Vextel's crystalline form shifted with interest. "Explain." "The galaxy is not as orderly as you think," Admiral Rodriguez said. "You've created an illusion of stability by containing or eliminating species that don't fit your patterns. But the universe itself is chaos. And in trying to contain us, you've proven why species like humanity are necessary." The displays showed how humans had transformed the Confederation's monitoring technology, not through careful, methodical research, but through intuitive leaps and unconventional combinations. Where other species sought perfect solutions, humanity embraced imperfect ones that could be improved through iteration. "Your civilization has achieved incredible things," Sarah acknowledged. "But you've also stagnated. You solve problems the same way you've always solved them. You follow patterns because they're safe, because they work, until they don't." The chamber erupted in worried whispers as she brought up data showing long-term trends in Confederation development. The rate of genuine innovation had been declining for millennia. New problems were taking longer to solve because they could only be approached in approved ways. "Humanity doesn't just break patterns," Admiral Rodriguez declared. "We create new ones. We find paths no one else would consider because we're not limited by what should be possible. We fail faster, learn quicker, and adapt more readily than any species you've encountered because that's what Earth demanded of us." She gestured, and the displays showed human research teams working alongside Confederation scientists, approaching old problems with new perspectives. The results were undeniable. Breakthroughs were happening at unprecedented rates. "We're not asking for admission to your Confederation," Sarah said. "We're offering you a choice. Continue trying to impose order on a chaotic universe, or embrace the chaos and learn to thrive in it, as humanity has." High Overseer Vextel rose, their crystalline form radiating complex patterns. "You believe your species holds the key to the Confederation's future?" "No," Admiral Rodriguez replied. "We believe diversity holds that key. Humanity is just one expression of it. There are others out there, species you've contained or ignored because they don't fit your patterns. Together, we could be something greater than either of us could be alone." The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity wasn't offering to join their civilization. They were offering to transform it. The very traits that had made humans seem dangerous now appeared in a different light. Their chaos wasn't a threat to order. It was an adaptation to a universe that had never been orderly to begin with. "The galaxy is changing," Sarah concluded. "The only question is whether the Confederation will change with it or be changed by it." In the end, the choice was clear. The Confederation could no longer contain humanity, but perhaps working together, they could contain the chaos of the universe itself, not by imposing order, but by learning to thrive in its absence, as humanity had always done. The patterns were breaking, but something new was emerging from the chaos, and for the first time in its long history, the Galactic Confederation faced the future not with fear of the unknown, but with the excitement of unlimited possibility. After all, that was the most human trait of all. The end.